Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Hope everybody is having an unbelievable week so far. We're midway. It's hump day. It's also Wealth Building Wednesday. So, this is where we talk about different principles, different ideas, different philosophies, different vehicles, all of the different elements, components, mechanisms, ideas, thoughts, philosophies associated and tied to being able to build generational wealth. Um, Before I get started, I want to remind you first and foremost that if you look in the description box, you are going to see a link for our 7-day online business launch course. It's a course that I created to show you how over the last 12, 13 years, I've literally created multiple online businesses online in a relatively short period of time, gone to profitability, and how you can do the same thing. This course is now being delivered online. It is the last week that you're going to be able to get it at $397. Starting at the beginning of March, it will be $595 online course. Uh, all of our stuff is primarily going online, except the one-on-one stuff with me, and obviously live events. That's what we're doing to make it more accessible, to keep people from having to download so much information onto their devices. You go online, you actually take the course in the browser. It's an unbelievable experience. You're going to get hours of lectures of me teaching the course live. You're going to get all of the written material. You're going to get all of the explanations and information you need to take the step-by-step process. But getting it at the promotional price, which I've had it at for over a year now, is ending this week. This is the last week. Well, not this week, but this is the last 6 days. So in February. Also, the promotional price on the Legacy Wealth uh, Academy Masterclass, which is an accredited course that is certified, and you are going to be taught. It's a self-paced 6 to 18-month course where you're going to be taught every component. It's the most comprehensive course out. I guarantee you, it's the most comprehensive course out. If it was a book, it'd be 1,000 pages. Put it that way. But it's going to be taught to you in a place in a way that you can absorb it, that you can take it, that you can have access to it. You're going to have access to other people. You're going to have access to experts who are going to actually be accessible doing certain courses. There are 4 or 5 courses within the course on top of everything else. So it's a great thing. It's going to eventually be priced at the end of the month, moving into March at $25.95. $2,595. Right now, it's $997, which has been the promotional price for some time. Time is winding down. If you want to take advantage of it, if you're serious about building wealth, it starts here. You've got to have the knowledge. It's not simply a money thing. It's a mindset. It's a principle. It's a practice. It's a behavior. It's so many different things. But you need to learn the vehicles. There's so much that people think they know that they don't know. It's so much that is consistently withheld from us. And now, when I say us, I mean the masses, because wealth is power. So we need people, we'll pay them what they think are unbelievably nice and good wages, but we won't teach them how to go out and create it for themselves. We won't teach them how to become autonomous in their finances. That's not what we want. We need them to do things to make our dreams come true. So we're never really truly going to expose them to the mechanisms to create and build their own. And so this course does that. It takes all the guessing out. There's no get rich quick scheme. There's no guarantee. That this is sitting up, learning the principles and practicing them in a way that they produce results, and they will produce results. That's that. So either you're ready for it, either you see the value in it or you don't. But it's there. Whenever, now again, it won't be there at that price long, but it's going to be there. We're going to have one class starting each month. Everybody's going to move at their own pace, but I want them starting in groups so that people will have people that they started with that they can communicate with. But this is your thing. You're going to do it. You're going to learn it. And what I'm hoping is that we build communities of people who are wealth minded. That we get out the poverty mindset, that we get out the consumer mindset, that we get out of a mindset of what my grandmother says, money burning a hole in our pockets, and start looking at ways that we can build. And so today's lesson on Wealth Building Wednesday is one built and based on mindset. You've got to get out of the mindset of expecting a handout, and you've got to start using your hands to build. And when I say that, I don't just mean that in a physical sense. I mean that in a state of mind. Um, there's an old thing say you can give a person you can feed a person once, or you can teach them to hunt a fish, and they'll feed themselves for a lifetime. Same thing here. When you're looking for a handout, you're looking for a person to help you fix whoever you're looking for a handout from. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's the government, maybe whatever it is. You're looking for that handout. You're looking for somebody to fix what's going on now. This needs to be paid now. I need to be able to go do this now. The car notes do, the rents do, light bills do. Kids need this, got to go this. All this stuff is going on, and you're looking for people to fix it. And so you're going every day of your life in survival mode, just looking for a handout to get the day. That's the person. Because if you actually look on the surface, the guy standing on the corner, uh, when I first moved back to Houston, 2015, when I first moved back to Houston, um, I would set up my satellite office at this Starbucks, and there would be a guy out there panhandling. And he came in, this man had a iPhone. He had whatever. He was getting money every day out there panhandling that some people who work 8-hour a day jobs weren't getting. But here's the problem with the thing is it's a handout. So in other words, every day I wake up and I go out there, and these people are going to help me solve my problems for that. I'm going to have food to eat. I'm probably going to be able to go get me a room tonight. I'm going to be able to do this, but every day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to come out and I'm going to ask somebody else to solve my problem. And ultimately, at some point in time, you're either going to run into a point where you're getting too old to do it, you get too sick to do it, or dynamics change, situations change. You never know. Here's the thing. With that level of commitment, this guy's up, and every morning he's on that spot to make sure nobody takes his spot. And he's out there and he's working. He's out there, whether it's hot or cold, he's out there sweating in the summer and freezing in the winter. He's doing it with that level of commitment. If he was to focus and take his mind off of the handout and go out and sit up and say, you know what, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to sell this on the corner. Now you're still waiting on people to buy something from you, but you're offering them something in return, and it's teaching you a valuable lesson in business and exchange. And that is the importance of understanding the handout versus the building. The handout says, I need, and don't get me wrong, and this is not me taking a shot at anybody who holds a job. You do what you have to do to take care of your family. You do what you have to do to survive. The problem isn't holding the job. The problem is trusting the job to be the end all be all, trusting the job to handle what you needed to handle for the rest of your life. And we find far too often that many people are sitting up and finding themselves in bad situations. Like I said, my one of the things that I did in the late 90s and the early 2000s, I was an international relocation specialist. What I did is I worked with major corporations, Unical, Flora Daniels, Dressel Clark, EDS, Enron. As a matter of fact, I repatriated all of Enron's high-level executives when the company collapsed. I was the guy who brought them home. I expatriated and I repatriated people. I handled everything from A to Z, from documentations like visas and passports to actually having household goods packed up, some of it shipped via sea, some air. I did all of that. Customs clearance, destination services, the whole nine. I did that. And here's the thing, though, that I learned. Out of all of that, and that's me. I've moved in and out of different businesses. It's just a way that I move. But here's what I learned in that instance with Enron is that I was dealing with a whole bunch of people who were coming home thinking they were set for life, finding out that their entire 401ks had been ravaged. That they not only no longer had 6- and 7-figure jobs, they didn't have any money in their 401ks and reserve accounts, and that much of the stock that they had bought in the company that they so loved and thought would hold them down forever was worth jack, because the company had collapsed and folded, and they had been doctoring the books, and it was over. These are people who there was one lady who, and you may have heard me tell this story, there was one lady who was 2 years away from retirement. She was 60 years old. She was an executive assistant to one of the high level figures. She made good money. She had been with the company through all the name changes and everything else, and she believed, and so she was heavily committed in her stock investments and in her 401k management of investments. In Enron, she came home 2 years away from retiring after 30 years, only to find out that she had zilch. She was 2 years away from retiring. She had only been with this company her entire professional career, and it was gone. That's the problem with, to me, if you all you have is a job where you wake up and you go work for someone who controls whether you work or not, it's still a handout. You're just working for it. What you've got to get in the mindset of is, I'm going to create something. Go to work. Keep the job. This isn't me dogging the job. This is me talking about a mindset. Get the job, but you better be hedging that job with other sources of income that you control. That's why I push the 7-day online business launch. That's why I have an arm within my company that literally will build your business for you. If you in the cost we're charging is reasonable, we're going to build it for your online business, build it for you. You don't have to take the course. You hire us, we'll build it for you. We'll do the marketing. We'll set up the funnels. We'll get it going to profitability. We'll stay on as a consultant for a year just to make sure you get it all and get it going. But you need to have multiple online, and it never has it been more easier to automate online interaction, online transactions, online engagement, online promotion. You can set all this stuff up and automate it. Go to work every day, work a full-time job. Come on, pull a couple of hours in. Once you get it up and going and get it automated, put a couple of hours in every day, and it's automated. You're gonna have email blasts going out. You're gonna build emails. You're gonna have customer acquisition campaigns going on. You have lead engagement campaigns going on. You're gonna have customer intelligent research. All this stuff is going to be happening. And it's going to work for you. We can do it for you, or you can take the course. The course is going to be $397 for the next few days, and then it's going to $595. Or you can pay us to do it, and we'll do it for you. I didn't put that link in there because it wasn't really about that, but now that I'm talking about it. But hey, here's the thing: for every additional source of income that you create, and what you want to start doing is creating passive income that doesn't require you to be actively engaged for it to happen. Something you invest in once and you get it going and it comes back. Rental properties, stock dividends, investing in foreign exchange, the Forex market. Don't go diving into stuff you don't understand. You need to learn, you need to read, you need to be able to do all those things. And so here is, hold on, say it's true. Something my mentor taught me. I'm going to put this up so that people can see it. Something my mentor taught me is exactly, Miss People say it's true. We use our gifts and talents to make their companies rich and wealthy and pay us pennies on the dollar. Something my mentor taught me a long time ago, and you've probably heard this one way or another, but he actually explained it to me after saying it. He says, you're either going to be investing in making your dreams come true, or someone's going to be using you to make theirs come true. It's that simple. That's where you are in this world. You're either helping someone else make, and there's nothing wrong with helping someone else, as long as you helping them is also furthering your vision, your dream. You weren't here just sent here to work and pay bills. And if you think that's the course of your life, you've been sadly mistaken. You've bought into this idea. You caught up in the rat race, and you're living a life that's not giving you fulfillment. You're literally subtracting years off of your life. It's called spiritual suicide. But he didn't just tell me that. This is what he told me afterward. He says, let me ask you a question. He says, I don't doubt that when you enter into the market, that if you wanted to get a job, you're going to get a job making six figures. You just have that kind of knowledge, that kind of skill, the kind of capacity to deliver, and people will pay you for that. He says, but let me ask you a question. If you get a six-figure job, how much do you think the person who's paying you six figures is making off of you? Now, granted, They may have the mechanisms in place, the leverage in place, the volume management system in place that they can actually leverage you better than you can leverage yourself, meaning they're going to earn more money using your gifts than you can do by yourself. But I guarantee you, you can make at least time and a half of what they're paying you, meaning that you can actually earn more yourself, covering yourself. But the thing is, even if you made less than what they were paying you, but you took it and you owned it, it's yours. Guess what? You get to pass that on to your kid. You get to pass that business onto your kid. Even if they don't want to run it, you get to pass it on, and they can sell it. They can do whatever they want, because if you create it right, you already have an exit strategy. Exit strategies are great when you have kids who don't want to do what you want to do. You leave them the legacy, and then they can do what they want to leverage that to redirect the wealth. But you have to be able to control it. If you don't control it, you're being controlled. And that's the thing that is so important when I'm talking about handouts. So the people that I brought back from Enron crushed. And these aren't people that were a part of lower income. These are all people making what people would call exceptional money coming home. Now, hopefully some of them have some things hidden away that wasn't tied to Enron, but Enron was so stacked in how they were working their books. They had sold the whole nation and the world on how awesome they were. And they definitely had sold their employees on it. And the crazy thing, again, because they were headquartered here in Houston, I got chose to be this dude that brought them back. And it was crazy to be a part of that. Imagine having to sit down with someone and say, okay, this is your severance package. And to look in their eyes and the devastation. A lot of times you're sitting there with them and their spouse. And in the instances where it's a man and his spouse is a wife, and she's been depending on her husband to take care of everything for years, and they're looking up, the fear in her eyes, the trepidation, the horror of dealing with this. And I did this over and over and over again. I'm bringing them back from Balikpapan in Jakarta, Indonesia, from Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney, Australia. I'm bringing them back from London, England, and so many other places. They're coming back. And when they're coming back, they're not happy. And that is what's happening to people all over. They're going to downsize. That was a big downsizing in the tech industry. The tech industry is rapidly going. The problem is they're automating it. AI is making a major move. So a lot of things that used to be necessary for a human to do, AI is handling it now. And so they're downsizing and they're cutting costs. And that's leaving people out in the open, and people don't know how to reinvent themselves because they've been so dependent upon someone else saying, I'll pay you for that gift, that you never thought about how you can use the gift to expand yourself. The book of Proverbs says that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. It didn't say your room will take you and make other men great. It says it will bring you before great men. And what that means is opportunity. It's going to make room for you. It's going to bring you before a great man who can open doors and make phone calls and do all this other stuff that gets you to the next point. This life is about you taking your gift and using it to expand your presence and make your impact felt in this world. A part of what that responsibility is in doing that is leaving a legacy of wealth and an inheritance to your children and your children's children that sits up and says, I'm putting you in a better position than I inherited this. Yes, Walmart is definitely downsizing their staffing. Thank you, Ms. Pete. It is immensely important that we start talking about the importance and the responsibility of leaving a legacy. One of the things that I've learned in dealing in real estate, especially back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the thing is, I would get in, I would acquire properties, but I was acquiring what you would call in the housing market, the jumbo properties, everything 500,000 and up. And the reason I was acquiring them is because I'm dealing with people who are relocating, that I control their relocation, and they're going to need temporary housing 3-5 years until they get their next assignment. And so guess who they were leasing from? But what I learned a lot in that environment was how people are operating and missing opportunities because they aren't prepared to be in the proper position. Things change, people grow, you move into different situations. So you don't panic when AI hits. You start asking, how can I use AI to benefit me? whether it's Walmart, whether it's the tech industry, no matter what it is, what you have to understand is if you don't control it, you're at the mercy of those who do. And the moment that it becomes more expedient for them to X you out than to pay you what you're worth, guess what happens? You get the axe. And then if you don't have an ability to create yourself, to recreate yourself, to reinvent yourself, to take the gift that you've been given and actually use it to benefit your seed. Here's what I learned in the real estate market. I know it was a point I was missing that I went to go get. I do that sometimes. But in the real estate market, here's what I learned. Whereas in Black families who are trying to get their starter homes or their first home or even their second, they are fighting to make sure that they're saving up to have their down payment cover all their closing costs and XYZ, blah, blah, blah. A large percentage of whites are getting seeded on their first home. You'll be surprised at how many white kids that look like they come from just average white homes are getting the down payment and closing costs covered by mom and dad or grandpa and grandma. What is that? That's legacy. That's me saying you're not going to have to start where I started. That's a part of you can't say, all right, you're 18, go get it. You're 21, go get it. And the people they're competing against, not just for means of income, but competing against for sake of power, have a head start. Most of the time, their academic, if they're going to go the academic route, their education is paid for. So very little or no student loan debt. All student loan debt. Then when it's time to buy a house, that first house is seated. Or when they come home from school, instead of sitting up and say, I got to get an apartment until I can eventually save to get a home, they go back home and live with mom and dad. Until they are constantly being platformed and underwritten until they get their bearings. We'll constantly say, you're grown now. And we didn't give them anything to go out there with. I got mine, you get yours. And we're sending them out into a world where they can't compete on a level playing field because, number one, systematically and institutionally, the playing field isn't level. And then they are competing against someone trying to level a field where they already have a head start in wealth, head start in opportunity and access. And we're expecting our kids to go out and be effective and win. That's a responsibility we should be looking at and should be carrying. And the thing is why it's going to be more, while it will be more challenging for us, because there are literally statutes, laws, practices, and policies in place that hinder a lot of the things that we need to do. We can't be stopped if we effectively practice it, but we have to get our mindset in the right place. Our philosophies have to align with what we need. You can't have a consumer mindset and consumer philosophy and have a wealth building reality. It doesn't work that way. You can sit up and understand that my focus has to be in putting my money somewhere where it is protected at the very minimum and grows in an ideal situation. That's an epitome. Number one should actually be cut my debt. So if it costs me to go into it, if it's costing me more than I earn, then I don't need to do it, with the exception of buying a house in most instances, and maybe sometimes a car. But if you really take care of things, maybe not. But you should be able to sit up and, if not, get a used car and pay a significant down portion on it, and you are no longer upside down when you drive off the lot. Buy smart. If you buy a new car, even if you pay below MSRP, by the time you drive it off the lot, it's worth less than what you own it. You're already upside down. So what does that mean? You have debt over asset. And the car is not an asset. Your home is not an asset until you have more liability than you have debt in it. Now, it may be collateral if you have enough equity in it, but what you need is you need to have something where you're not upside down. And so, in essence, if I'm going to buy a vehicle, and I like nice stuff, but if I'm going to buy a vehicle, I'm finding a used car with reasonable mileage on it that has already depreciated in value. So I'm going to pay a lot less for it than it was if it was new. And I'm at an age where the new thing wears off in a couple of weeks anyways, or when that first note has to be paid. The new wears off. So I learned that lesson a long time ago. So, and if I'm not invested in a car that's going to actually make money, done that before too. this is not what it's about. But if I'm not going to invest in a car that's going to make money, I don't need to be sitting up spending a whole lot of money on it trying to prove anything to anybody. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for something I'm going to enjoy driving that represents where I'm at life and speaks of me to me. And so then what? I go out, I find it, and if I can't pay cash for it, in times I have, but if I can't pay cash for it, I'm going to pay as much as I possibly can so that when I drive it off the lot, I own more on it than I owe on it. And that puts me in a good position in a lot of different ways. Now, the goal is to have assets versus liabilities. It's not an asset if it doesn't hold or appreciate in value. It can't be used as collateral, and it can't be insured. Those are the qualifications for an asset. It can be used as collateral, it holds or appreciates in value, and it can depreciate, but it can't be anything owed on it. But you want something that at minimum holds value, can be used as collateral, and can be insured. That's the way you need to start qualifying whether something is an asset or not. Simply because you bought it and it's expensive doesn't make it an asset. Your car is not an asset. That's your worst liability. It has a horrible return on it. If you didn't have to get around, you shouldn't have one. But that's another story. What am I getting at? If my mindset is buy, if I haven't changed my mindset from embracing the symbolism of success to creating success, I will consistently be satisfied with looking like I got money and having none. Or I can walk around with a hoodie and a cap on and have situations put in place and not be concerned about what people think and be doing better than the average person. Here's the one thing in beauty I love. Something else my mentor taught me, same guy who happened to be Jewish, crazy situation, met him in a bar years ago, years ago. I was a kid, 20, 21. Met him in a bar in New York. And long story. Anyway, he saw something in me. We exchanged information. This is like a long time. Wasn't no cell phones or none of that. We exchanged information and we hooked up. And the guy just decided he was going to teach me. Now, he benefited from it. And that's something else he taught me. I'm going to benefit from what I teach you. As you gain, I'm going to gain. But the whole thing is, are you gaining at a rate that you could not gain if you weren't working with me? And I always saw, man, the money I'm making right now with this guy, I couldn't be making it anywhere else that I could think of, especially where I come from. So I got him. But something he told me, he said, there's something different about you. He said, you take pride in being a renegade. Right now, I have a number of tattoos. My biggest tattoo runs from this side of my shoulder all the way to this side of my shoulder, halfway down my back. And it says renegade, ride or die for life. And that's how I've moved. I've never been a go along to get along. I've never been a group person, never joined a gang, never been in a fraternity. Big ups to all you frat people and sorority people. No problem. I love it. I see you guys. Sometimes I look at it and say, man, I wonder what if I would have pledged, but I think too much on my own to know at some point I'm going to want to move in a way that the group doesn't want to move. And I want the lateral I want the liberal ability to move laterally when I need to. And so he saw that in me. He says, here's the problem though. You don't want to wear a suit. You don't want to shave. You want to wear earrings. You got tattoos, but you keep telling me you want to be a businessman. He says, in the world, you got to think this is 80s. He says 89, 90, somewhere up in there. He says, it may have been 88, 89, somewhere up in there. It's late 80s. He says, everybody wears suits. Everybody's clean shaven, hair groomed, nails groomed. Everybody's looking the part. And you want to be in t-shirt and sneakers and wearing a cap, and you want people to respect you. And I kind of looked at him and I'm thinking, this is frustrating, but I don't want to lose myself. Now, I don't have a problem putting a suit on, but I don't want a suit defining me, because I clean up well and I put on suits. I've wear tuxedos. I've done it. That's not the thing. The thing is this who I want to be every day? Do I want someone telling me I can't respect you because of the color of the suit you're wearing or the shoes you're wearing and all this? And I get it. A suit will make a man look real good and everything. But I've met some idiots. I've met some stupid people. I've met some mean people. I've met some people who have hurt and harmed people wearing suits. It doesn't change the character of a man. Doesn't change the knowledge of a man. Here's what he told me though. He says, no one's going to want you in their room. No one's going to want you in their boardroom. No one's going to allow you to come to their meetings unless. And he sit there and he paused for a minute until I said, what? He says, there's one way that you can force your way into their world. And his response was to when I said what again was, he who makes the goal, he who has the goal makes the rules. It's an old saying, but it's powerful. He said, he who has the goal makes the rules. I said, what do you mean? He says, if you become so efficient, effective, and capable in the areas in which there is a need in any specific industry area or place of business and opportunity, and you are the place that people need to come to get what it is that you possess, and they can't get it any other way. If they want it that way, they can't get it from any other place than you. You now make the rules. I go to meetings consistently. And I not only go into the meetings being me, I go into the meetings and before you know it, I change. There are times that I have been into a meeting and I've brought in, I do a lot of closing on deals, on mergers and stuff like that. I do closings. I mediate and negotiate. But there have been times I've walked into boardrooms. Matter of fact, Unical was another company that I secured their business contract for international relocation, expatriate, repatriating. And but going into the boardroom, you go in there, everybody's dressed, suit, tie, shirt, business skirts for the women's and all that. And I'm walking in t-shirt, cap, jeans, sneakers, maybe a button-up shirt in some occasions, but definitely jeans and sneakers. And you can kind of see the looks initially, but by the time that first meeting is over, they're looking at me differently because now what did I just do? I just showed them don't judge a book by their cover. Every time you walk up on a black man, you can make the automatic assumption because he doesn't look the way you think he should look, that he doesn't possess exceptional and extraordinary potential. That's the first thing I did. The process of getting that business took about 9 months of meeting and sharing because I'm competing against people like North American Van Lines and Grable and a bunch of other places to get this stuff. And so I'm sitting up and in the course of this, they start to show up and nobody was in jeans and t-shirts, but the men were in polos. They done dropped the jacket. They done dropped the tie. They in polo shirts and khakis. The women are more casual. I never sit up and said that's what I wanted or anything. I simply said I gave them permission to be comfortable and still be good at what they can do. Now, again, when someone says, hey, we got a formal event, I'm going to dress up and I'm going to go to the event. I'm just saying that when you have the goal, you make the rules. The problem is most people have been convinced they don't have the goal. And yet you have an employer ciphering the goal out on a daily basis, eating like crazy, paying you pennies on the dollar. Do what you got to do to feed the family, but you need to have a plan. How are you going to use your gift and leverage it better than they are? How are you going to make your presence felt in any industry? That's the question that needs to be answered. But what you can't do is sit around waiting on somebody to give you something, the handout mentality. I don't care if you're going to a job, if you're sitting around and you got to wait for them to give it to you. And if it goes beyond what you earn, you got to hope you can go in and ask for an advance and, and be able to pay it back over time and they give it to you versus sitting up saying, well, I need an extra so-and-so. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. And you're going to do it. I'm going to grow this and I'm going to build this. And even though it may be tight for a while, even though I can't go out and splurge and do all this other stuff, whatever, I'm building something for me. I'm building something that I own. I'm building something that I control. I'm building something that someone else can't wake up one morning and decide I can no longer do it. When you do that, you also shift your mentality, which is the most important part of any area of success, is your psychology and your thought processes as uh, it pertains to that particular thing. So here we are, and you're sitting up and you're looking and you're creating, and all of a sudden you realize, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. So you start creating now. That's the part of the building. So you start to create, you start to add to yourself, you start to grow yourself. And this just doesn't happen in the world of finance. It happens in the world of business. It happens in the world of relationships. It happens in the world of personal development, personal impact, personal gift. Everything is there for a reason. You should be expanding your gift, refining your gift, setting skills and honing talents. You should be becoming more valuable, so that the more valuable you become, the more you're worth to the market that you're in, to the environment that you're in. You are contributing to everything you touch, from your home and your family, to your community, to your place of worship and service and spiritual growth, to your business, to the financial world, to society and the world as a whole. That's your responsibility. It isn't to show up in life and just survive. And it's not even on the extreme other end of the spectrum to show up and just eat and have fun and blow everything. It's about leaving an impact. It's about leaving a legacy. It's about touching this world in a way that you can't be forgotten. Let me tell you something. I often say that the first half of my life was about me. It was about me proving that I could come from where I came from and do what I was doing. It was about me showing where I could drive, where I could live, all this stuff, where I could travel to. And then I realized that in all of that, I was waking up every morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, pacing, couldn't get back to sleep. And that was just this gut wrenching feeling inside of me. And I couldn't understand it. What it was is I wasn't fulfilled. Things don't fulfill you. It isn't the money that fulfills you. The money is simply a means to something. It's going to be how you impact this world. Are you? And so I talked to that same mentor and I told him, man, something's not right, man. I'm winning. It's people looking at me telling me they wish they had my life and I'm miserable. He says, because you're not walking in your purpose. You're living in what the world tells you is successful. Success is defined by how you impact the world based on your design. So then I stepped back and I said, the second half of my life is going to be about my legacy. It's going to be about what I've done in this world that will speak of me after I'm gone. That's a legacy. It speaks of you after you've left this place. Long after you've stopped driving that car, long after you've stopped wearing those shoes, long after you put that watch down, long after all these things that you think matter, that makes other people respect or like you. Long after that stuff is gone, it's going to be, what did you do to make an imprint on this world? How many lives did you touch? To me, and this may be a little bit of a digression, but to me, I look at all the things that I've been able to do, and the things that matter to me the most aren't the cars that I've driven, the homes that I've purchased, the places that I've traveled, my watch collection, my shoes, none of that. You know what? When someone comes on or sends me an email or comes on to one of my posts, happened to me several times last year, and it happens all the time, comes on and says, Dr. Wallace, you saved my life. I don't mean that in a euphemistically type way. You literally stopped me from killing myself. And it almost always starts like this. This happened in my life, and all of a sudden I came across your video. I don't know how many times I heard that. It starts like that. One lady said she was thinking about committing suicide and she came across my video. Another lady said she lost her husband of 20 something years. I think it was 28 years. And he was her whole life. He's all she ever knew as an adult. And she had lost herself. She didn't know how to find herself. And she was about to give up, throwing the towel. And she came across my video. And this was 6 years ago. 6 years ago, she came across my video. She was about to give up and throw in the towel. She decided to hang on. She started working on herself. She started healing. She started watching my videos every day. Said, last year, Dr. Wallace, I met another man. He can never replace my husband, but this man is an unbelievable man who loves me, and he's his own self. So I don't have to look and measure him against the past. He's my future. And I want to thank you, because without that, I would have never met him. And I just go, and it's on and on of people. Someone went back and got their doctorate because I told them it was possible. And I go on, that's a legacy. But I look at how I love my kids, how I love my family. That's a legacy. The same thing goes with this wealth thing. You're going to be judged by what you leave behind you. A lot of people leave the responsibility of paying for the funeral. That ain't even covered. We've got to do a better job of getting out of the mindset of somebody giving us something or handing us something or being easily laid out in some little way, and start saying, how can I create a life for myself that I can pass on to my progeny or leave to my spouse or significant other, that makes sure that they have what it takes to move on and continue something that I've created that's worth carrying. If you haven't created anything that you want to outlive you, that's a problem. So look, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. As I said at the beginning of this, if you want to enroll in the Legacy Wealth Academy Masterclass, it's a 6 to 18 month course, comprehensive wealth building course on everything from trusts, stock market, real estate, precious metals, indexing, for all the mediums and vehicles, but also mindsets, practices, principles, and everything else. If you want to learn that, this is the last week you're going to be able to get it for under $1,000. It's going up to $25.95 on the 1st, and it's worth every dime. It took me years to create it. It's cost me a lot to get the licensing to use some of the video footage of some of these major players that are teaching the game and nobody's getting it. I brought it and put it all in one place. And so you can get that. Or you can also sign up for the 7-day online business launch course. But anyway, one way or another, hopefully you're going to start thinking in a way that allows you to take advantage of what's in front of you. With that being said, as I always say myself, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. I'm challenging each and every one of you to do the same thing. Only you are responsible for your life. Handle that responsibility with care. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have